Cool. Okay. All right. So welcome everyone to the HAF provider check-in webinar. So a few things we're going to cover today, but also it's kind of an opportunity for all of you to have some input as well. So we don't want it to just be us speaking at you for the next hour. So there'll be lots of different sections where you can ask questions, and feel free to put anything in the chat. So we're going to get started by looking at how summer went, because most of the providers who are delivering in winter had also delivered in summer. Nora's got some feedback from the surveys that we ran in the summer as well. We're also going to talk about compliance, so health and safety, safeguarding guidance, how we work with sessional staff, a bit about food standards and healthy eating, and then also how planning for Christmas provision is going. And then Geraldine will give us an update on the 2024 program and what our plans are there. So if you're just joining, if you can write your name and your organization in the chat, that would be really helpful. If your name is like iPhone or something generic, try and rename yourself. There will be questions after the time for questions after each section, but also feel free to put them in the chat as well. And then we'll leave some time at the end if there's any other big discussions we want to have. And then also if you can keep yourself on mute to avoid any background noise. Okay. So just to get started on a positive note, so some key takeaways from summer of 23. So this is just total figures across the bi-boroughs, Westminster and K&C. There were 74 organizations that received funding. 5,600 children and young people were supported. So that's unique individuals across the bi-borough. There was 48,500 sessions that were created across the 6-week holiday. So if you think of that as like a place per day in all of your different activities, we were able to create almost 50,000 places, which is amazing. 78% of the HAF population received FSM. 310 participants were refugees or asylum seekers. And just over 1,000 participants had special educational needs or disabilities. And we got that from the school census as well, because that information is included in the census. And over 48,000 healthy meals were served. So hopefully this kind of puts into perspective how much of an impact all of your organizations made during the summer. And it's really great to see how many people were able to take advantage of this, and all the healthy meals that were delivered and everything. It's great to see. And then this was just a bit of a breakdown of the activities that were offered in the summer. So it's usually kind of similar every holiday period anyway, but you can see a lot are multi-activity, sports and games. So whether that's like a specific sport or, just general physical activity, culture and creative activities, so music and dance, arts and crafts, lots of youth clubs across the bi-borough, which is great, adventure playgrounds. We had some early years, and that was through the additional funding in Westminster. There was some SEND-specific provisions, such as short breaks and Caxton Youth Organization. So that doesn't include the SEND spaces that all of the organizations offered as well. And then some STEM activities as well. So you can see there was quite a lot on offer, and I feel like the breakdown will probably be quite similar for winter again. So I'm just going to pass it over to Nora, because she's going to speak a little bit about the parent care survey that the foundation ran during the summer.
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Nora from Young Westminster. A lot of you know me on the Westminster side anyway, but nice to see you all. So we ran this survey to collect feedback from parents, carers and young people on all the different providers in the summer. We did this in May, and then we did it again in summer, and we're planning on doing it again in the winter. So if you haven't been able to sort of share this survey with your young people and your families, then please do, as it's a really good opportunity to get feedback on your provision from your families as well. So we So there's a couple of stats there. The top 4 relate to the things that young people have said. We asked them about different things, and yeah, it's just been really, really good to see that the feedback was so positive, and there wasn't a single young person who said they wouldn't go back. Yeah, so we asked them, you know, would you come back to this provision, and they all said yes. I think there were a couple maybe who said maybe, but it was amazing to see that no one said no. So that's like honestly well done, and it's so nice to see that it was so brilliantly received. Yeah, a vast majority of young people said, you know, the program helped them make new friends, feel more confident, and make them feel safe. And then we kind of asked parents and carers for their kind of feedback to see what the impact has been on them. We asked them a couple of different things, but the main things that came out was that they were less worried about activities, so didn't have to sort out anything. They knew they had, you know, there was something on offer, and that their children were taking part in physical activities, which was particularly important. And I think we've kind of heard that anecdotally through our visits a lot as well, that parents are worried about their young people staying at home, too much screen time, all of that. So they were really grateful for this to be on offer. Quite a large number of parents also talked about the difference it made in relation to feeling more or less worried about food and money over the summer. So yeah, like I said, we had 242 responses, which is really good. It's really good to see. And we've got some really lovely feedback, which is going to be on a later slide for you to look at. But yeah, if any of you haven't passed this on in the summer to your families, please do, because it really helps us understand whether the program is doing what it's supposed to be doing, and it also really helps the provider to kind of get a bit of feedback on your provision. Another thing that we asked is how long young people are staying, and so yeah, I mean the majority of them are staying between for you know, like more than 2 weeks, which is again is a really good sign that people are happy to come back. So yeah, 20% of those who responded attended between 1 and 4 days, but the rest of them stayed for between 5 and 20 plus days, because some of you did even more than the 4 weeks. So that's really, really nice to see as well, that young people are happy to come back. Sorry, Nikki, can you go on the next slide? Thank you. So yeah, there's some feedback from on some of the providers for Westminster, and we've got some really lovely feedback from RBKC as well. Yeah, so again, just kind of ask if you haven't done this, please take part this time, because it is really, really good to see this, and it's really good for you guys as well to get this amazing feedback. Yeah, this just relates to different things. You know, parents were really, you know, like I said, glad to have sorted something for the summer. They could, you know, were able to stay at work during the summer. And they were just really amazed about the different things that there were on offer. And it's similar for RBKC, I think. Nikki, can you go on the next? Or are we? Yeah, so I think maybe we just leave those there for you to read. But one thing that I wanted to also add is that in the Westminster survey, we added a question, or we added a couple of questions. But the one thing that is, I think, quite important for you guys to kind of see, and those of you who have taken part would have seen this already, because my colleague Laurie, who collected the survey, she would have sent this back to you. But we just analyzed the answers to that question. If you could change one thing about activities in Westminster, what would it be? So these are like the top 4 things that came up. And not surprisingly, a lot of people said they wanted more. They wanted to, you know, there to be more activities and services for children and families, also all year round, not just in the holidays. And they wanted it to happen for longer. So obviously HAF is limited to 4 hours a day. A lot of the people who responded said that wasn't enough. And they also talked about inclusivity and accessibility, saying that it's really important that, there's also something on offer for children with disabilities, and that is accessible for those. And then promotion and advertising, which we think is also another key point, because actually what has also come through in the surveys that people were saying, oh, I had no idea that all this was on offer, because the way they had to fill in the surveys, there was a drop-down menu and they had to select the one activity that their child was doing. And then obviously they saw a whole long list and didn't know that all this other stuff was on offer. So I think while obviously a lot of people say they want more, I think they're also unaware of what is out there already. So that's just maybe a big key element for us, or as Young Westminster Foundation, Young KNC, the council, but also you guys, to just keep pushing on promoting your services. And obviously our city is one of the key ways to do that. But that's just been quite striking that people say, oh, I had no idea. And they live in the area and they didn't know about what's going on next door. So there's just a bit more feedback from RBKC, but I don't know if we've got time, Nikki, to just read all this. So shall we? We just thought that would be really nice if you guys could give us a bit of feedback and tell us about how your summer went. It doesn't have to be kind of, just a couple of key points that you can think of, what went well for you, what the challenges were, and whether there's anything that you might do differently for the next holiday. Maybe if some of you, I know Lauren, I can see Lauren is here from Adventure Play Hub. I know you managed the survey really successfully, kind of plugging it with your family. So it would be also really great, maybe if we've got, if you're around, if you're happy to share, to hear from you how you did that, and how you, how the survey helped you to kind of respond and adapt your services. That would be great. But I just thought it'd be really nice to hear, like Linky said at the start, we don't just want to talk at you. So I don't know if Nora is here, and I think Nora and Liz, you both said you'd be okay to share a couple of thoughts.
I'm here.
Yeah. Oh, hi Nora. Hello.
So our summer was, in my eyes, the most successful HAF provision we've run, and that's because we got the young people involved. Our young people were working for us, and they were helping with the planning, they were buying the resources, they were very much involved in every aspect of the HAF provision, which made it flow very smoothly and made it much more enjoyable for everyone. The challenges, we had a lot of children with SEN needs sign up, who were not entitled to short breaks support or funding, and us as a team did not have the heart to send them away. So what we did is we gave them a trial, and during that trial we would see if within the staffing that we have, can we adequately look after these young people. And I could confidently say 80% of the children with SEN that walked through our doors did access our service, and that was amazing. But that's because we gave them a chance and didn't send them away the second we got an email saying that they've got autism or ADHD and they've got one-to-one at school. We tried to see if we could adapt that and give them a 3-to-1 at our organisation. What did I learn? I learned to always keep the door open, never send anyone away if we can adequately and safely look after children. So we had walk-ins, and sometimes it meant we had an extra 2-3 children on site. But if I could get a volunteer parent in to volunteer for us, then those children could stay. Because at the end of the day, our aim was to maintain and keep a safe space for young people and families. And me sending children away would mean that I'm not doing that.
You work with a lot of volunteers, right? At
Yes, I
Aloe.
do.
Right.
And
Yeah.
they come from the local community, so it's quite easy to just send a message, say we want to volunteer today from 10 till 2. And I usually do get a few people that pop in, who I've already got DBS for, who that we know already from our organisation. So yes, that what would I change? That's a difficult question. I changed from using the bigger hall into using 2 different classrooms and the playground over the summer. And I think I would keep that the same, but maybe swap over the outdoor resources more often. So there's always a change for the children.
Thank you.
No
That's
worries.
great. Thanks, Nora.
I think
Really
for
good to hear.
you asked Nora about the survey was to one thing that we found worked to get parents to do it was to help them to understand that you know, if we're planning for future holidays, it's good if we have their input. And then we sort of project managed it one day where when parents were coming to collect their children, we stood with them and gave them the QR code, and any questions they had, that they did it on their phones. And so project managing it and actually setting aside a time where we supported parents to do it helped us. We have very similar situation with the SEND. We have so many children each holiday wanting to attend with SEND. And again, we try to accommodate everybody. And often it can cause the staff team quite a lot of stress, but we don't like to send anybody away. We also have quite a lot of referrals through children's services as well. And so we always keep spaces available. And I think the biggest challenge for us is the number of children that want to attend. We laugh sometimes saying parents are going to start throwing their children over the railings, you know, to get them in. But what would be really helpful for us is if we could signpost them somewhere else, so that they, you know, the summer can be a long time. And once we're full, not having that sort of being able to signpost anywhere. So maybe for the next holidays, especially the summer, having a list of maybe other providers that we could contact and say, have you got a space, and then signpost the family there. And maybe some collaboration with short breaks to look at how maybe a different model where again we could have 1 to 3, or shadowing we do a lot with the children with special needs. So yeah, it seems to always be very in demand. You know, there's no shortage of demand for the HAF for us for sure. So
yeah, thanks, Lauren. Liz, did you want to come in?
I'd like to know, part of our feedback, I'd like to know, we are still, the eternal question is the pupil premium question, with free school meals applied throughout schools now. So the pupil premium, I'd like to know, the Department for Education must have a record of how many schools in these areas have children with pupil premium. And do we have, amongst the HAF providers, the right number of places for pupils on pupil premium? So that would be an interesting, that would just be interesting data to have, so that we know that we're not, because likewise we get really full. We have a lot of kids, and I don't want to. We don't turn anybody away. Obviously, we wouldn't turn anybody away, but we also have to keep a certain percentage of people who are on pupil premium, and that for us is the biggest challenge. It's not, we welcome kids with SEND as well. We welcome kids with, we have a really high ratio of kids with autism and ADHD, and we also welcome some children with cerebral palsy this summer. It was really good. That was our staff are really well equipped to help with that. That's good. But I just wanted to sort of know on the numbers, have we got enough places? Have we generally got enough places, so that when we can sort of say actually it is exclusively for children on pupil premium, which HAF is supposed to be exclusively. I mean, I never turn anyone away, even if they're not on pupil premium. We just don't, you know, we just include them. But I would like to know that, basically. And I would also, I think one of my main things is starting it early enough that we can tell people to go to their school, because once you can't do that during the holidays, you can't go to your school and register for pupil premium. But the pupil premium schools need us. So the schools need us to encourage, because now there's less incentive to register for pupil premium because you're all on free school meals. So the schools actively need us to say, can you go and register with your school in order to get a place? That's part of the HAF. That's part of the benefits of being on pupil premium, is the HAF program. So you need that sort of lead time that they can go into the school office, register, have it recorded, and be able to take advantage of that. And the schools, that really helps the schools, because obviously it helps them to have pupil premium children recognised, and so that benefits everyone all round. So that's the message when we're advertising the program. We need to be saying, go to your school and get registered. Like, it's not, you know, you can still do that, and there's enough lead time to do that. So that was one thing, and because we get lots of people who just don't know. Also getting the list checked in advance, getting all of those things checked in advance. So I'm trying to develop my master list of all the kids on pupil premium, and it's a bit kind of,
because you've got that, don't you, Lizzie, from previous, you've got that from previous holiday provisions.
So I'm constantly searching for the pupil premium kids, but and to make sure that the people who register, because we try and vary our age groups a little bit across, you know, half term. But the problem is because obviously at half term we welcome everyone. And then at Christmas we are back to pupil premium again. So it's that sort of, it's literally sort of saying, oh, you can come to this, but you can't come to that. It's a bit, it's really difficult. But we need to do that, because obviously otherwise we'd just be completely overrun. So but I need that message. I kind of need all of that information way before we start. So I'm going to be sending my lists over to Nikki soon to get checked. But it's always the people who show up, the walk-ins, and they always swear blind that they're on pupil premium, but they're not. And we can't get so at the summer we asked for a couple of last lists to be checked, and obviously people on holidays, things like that, we couldn't get those lists checked. And so it's all that sort of stuff. And I know I sound obsessed by it, but I am kind of it's HAF, isn't it? So
well, you're right.
So we had a fabulous summer. I echo, we had the best summer ever. It was really good, really good, really good fun. I was really pleased with the summer. It was really good. But I still, I still feel that we're not quite there yet somehow with this list matching and the numbers, and in terms of us as collective, as providers, and also pushing it with the schools, so the schools make sure that they send out the invitations. So that's a key thing when they talk about promoting it and publicizing it. It's a key thing to make sure that the schools are pushing HAF, all of the HAF things, and our city website specifically to the people who are eligible for it. So they do, but they really need, because we don't have that information, but they do. Also, there was a whole bunch of other kids actually who we took to Winter Wonderland. We did a homeschool thing to Winter Wonderland, and we discovered hundreds of homeschool kids. Not all of them are in Westminster, but there are loads and loads of homeschool kids. They are now, if they're homeschooled, generally they're not on pupil premium, but if they were eligible before, they should be eligible now, and that's another thing that I'm a bit confused about.
Yeah, so we'll Liz, we'll come back about the homeschool thing towards the end, because I think a few other providers had that as well, where they discovered children attending provision that were homeschooled. So we can talk about that. And then I'll give you an update about the pupil premium and all of that at the end. Nicola has to go at 1:45, so I'm just conscious.
Okay,
sorry. It's okay. But I've written it all down, so we will come back to all of it at the end, because there's a few things that I can update you on kind of how we're going to go about doing those lists and that sort of thing.
Cool.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
How do I mute? Someone mute me.
Yeah, I'll mute you.
Okay, guys. Thanks for sharing, and also thanks for all your comments in the chat, which is great to see. Yeah, if you have more things to share at the end, but shall we move on now to Nicholas so we don't lose
So we're just going to talk
agenda.
about quality assurance here.
I think that's me. Hi everyone.
Yeah.
I'm Geraldine. I think I've met a lot of you now as well. So I work across Borough Children's Services. I'm just going to really quickly zoom through this so we can get on to Nicola's section. But just wanted to kind of, obviously emphasise how important quality assurance is for the HAF programme. And I think, you're probably all aware that this has been a kind of key area of focus for the team this year especially. Just want to say massive thanks to all of you for submitting your compliance checklist before summer. They are so helpful for us because they just really enable us to kind of understand what, the training and support needs are across the network of HAF providers. And then to kind of be able to develop appropriate training programs. So, I mean, as you're all, I'm sure, very well aware, like the three kind of dimensions of QA within HAF are food safety, obviously because of the food element, safeguarding and health and safety. So before summer, I think we placed a real focus on safeguarding, and we kind of basically did a deep dive on that. And it was really helpful to get all of your feedback through the surveys, and we ran some kind of specific HAF training around safeguarding, which was really well attended. And we learned a lot from that as well, just kind of going through that process. So now we're switching the focus to do a more in-depth review on health and safety. So I think, Nikki, if you just want to go on to the next slide, I'm not going to go through this. You'll have the chance to kind of look at the slide pack after the meeting, and I think this was covered last time as well, but they're just the key components around food safety, the top level requirements really. Safeguarding we're going to come on to after Nicola's piece, but Nicola, do you want to come in now just to go through it's basically just to kind of give really an introduction to kind of our expectations for health and safety within the HAF programme?
Great, yeah, thank you, Geraldine, and thank you everyone for putting up with me having to dash off. I bet you can't wait to hear about health and safety. I think the first thing to say is, you all know we've done a lot of work with you on safeguarding over the last year, and as Geraldine said, we're now trying to do a bit more on health and safety, but I just want to emphasise really that our role is to try and support you with this, and if you have questions about it, or if we can come out and meet you and support you with it, or if there's training that would be useful for us to put on for people to come along to, we're very, very happy to do that. And I know that Young Westminster and the HAF team, Nikki and Geraldine and Rebecca, are very happy to work with that as well. So the things, just to sort of give you an idea of kind of what we're looking for health and safety, the first thing we're looking for is that you have a health and safety policy. I'm sure that most of you do. We can do some more work in the coming year about what the health and safety policy needs to cover. One of the important things that you need in addition to your health and safety policy is a written risk assessment for your project or for your piece of work. And I think most of you will have done risk assessment at some time or another. If you haven't, then now is a good time to think about it. The kinds of things that your risk assessment should be addressing, it should be looking at any risks associated with your premises. It should be looking at any risks associated with your equipment, and it should be looking at any risks associated with your activities. And really what you're doing is you're identifying who might be harmed and how, and you're thinking about what you can put in place to make sure that you really minimize the risk of serious accidents or serious injury. Things that you might want to think about in terms of minimizing those risks, you might want to think about your staff ratios and how your staff will supervise children and young people who are attending. The NSPCC has guidance on staff ratios. Just as a headline, it is just guidance. It's not the law. It's not a rule. And actually, ultimately, you have to make your own judgment about what level of staff ratio you need for whatever your activity is or whatever your location is. But the NSPCC guidelines, to give you a flavour, if you're working with children aged 9 to 12, the recommended staff ratio is 1:8. If you're working with age 13 to 18, the recommended staff ratio is 1:10. Now, I think those are actually quite high staff ratios, because my background is open access youth work, and so that is high, and that is that's it. But I think that's probably what we're aspiring to, if at all possible. If you're not able to meet those kind of ratios, then your risk assessment needs to explain why the ratio that you are using is appropriate for the type of work and the type of activities that you're doing. In some cases, you might need a higher ratio than that. For instance, you might need a higher ratio if you're working with disabled young people, or if you are in a high risk location, or if you have a high number of children with very challenging behavior, or if you're doing a high risk activity like a trip or going off site or swimming or some contact sports, for instance. So it very much depends kind of on what the risks are for your particular project. And we will be doing more to work with providers on training around risk assessment and health and safety in the coming year. Couple of other things to think about in terms of health and safety are first aid. You should always have a qualified first aider on site. So you need to plan and make sure that that you have a sufficient number of staff trained in first aid, and to mean that you have somebody there always. First aid qualifications go out of date after 3 years, so that's something that you need to keep refreshing as you go along. The other thing to consider when you're looking after children is making sure that you've got parental consent and that you've got parental contact details, so that if there was an accident or an emergency, you can contact the parents immediately and very quickly. So you need to consider how you're getting the registrations done, and also how you're recording attendances, so that you know who's on site in the event that, say, that you have a fire alarm. We've looked briefly at food hygiene, which is another area that needs to be considered for holiday activities and food, because you're providing food. And overall as well, the other thing to think about is what your staff training is. And what we're looking for there is that your staff are trained and experienced in whatever activity it is they're doing. So if they're delivering dance, that they have some training, for instance, in dance, or similarly it might be a sport, or it might be youth work, or it might be play work, whatever it is, whatever particular activity it is that you're doing. I think that's covered everything that's my whistle stop tour of health and safety. Just to say, we will be coming back to do more work with you in person about this over the coming year, and we'll be working with you step by step to try and put as much of this in place as possible. Any questions?
This is Owen. I just was wondering, like, specifically, I put in the chat, like, to do with health and safety, and like if one of your activities was to do with the making things. I mean, the idea I had was sort of one of them was specifically to do with Christmas. You might have the making, I don't know, something gingerbread or like mince pies or something like that, and or you might have them making little sandwiches or something fun. So I don't know how that would work, whether you'd have to go like the whole hog and have like kind of food standards and everything, if it's something quite sort of minor like that. But
I have to be honest that food hygiene is not my area of specialism. I mean, you would need to have some staff on site who have training in food hygiene if you are providing food for people to eat. And so as you're doing holiday activities and food, I would recommend and have, you know, at least one staff member there with a level 2 in food hygiene, if that's what you're doing. But if you're actually cooking all the meals and providing the meals on site, then you probably actually need somebody with a level 3 in food hygiene who can take responsibility for supervising that. I mean, I would have said level 2 just for the making things with children. That's what I've always done personally in the past, you know, so that you've got enough staff there who know the basics, who can supervise for, you know, things like making cakes or gingerbread, as you say.
Yeah, I mean, it's doubtful we'd get as far as making anything cooked anyway, because I don't think we've got really cooking facilities in the libraries anyway. But it's good to know kind of what sort of things you'd need for what, just for ideas like that.
Oh, and we can check with the council's food hygiene team as well, because we did meet with them before summer to just get some ideas about what levels of training providers should have. So I can actually ask them in those scenarios what we would do, if that's helpful.
Yeah, that'd be brilliant to know. Yeah, thanks, Nikki.
Any other questions around health and safety for Nicola? I can't see the chat or the screen, so if you do have a question, just unmute yourself and you can kind of shout out. Okay.
Sorry, Nicola, can I just ask about it might be I just might meet separately with you about this, but around assessing the capacity or the needs of children with SEND, and how you gauge with, you know, what framework to use for that in terms of ensuring safety as well as equality, and finding that balance of how you make those decisions. Because we say to a lot of parents, okay, come in, we'll have a trial, 9 times out of 10, you know, they'll be able to attend, or we can look at speaking to short breaks, but just we're only using our own you know, experience of that, just maybe having a bit more of a framework for that. I don't know if yeah, what your thoughts are on that.
It's a really good question, and your own experience is really important as well, you know, because you know your site, you know the children and young people that you work with, and getting as much information as possible from the parents or from other services like short breaks that might be working with the child or young person. I was listening actually to you speaking earlier about not wanting to be able to take everybody and not wanting to have to exclude anybody, and I totally agree with you about that, but I have to be honest that I have sometimes not been able to take some children with very high levels of need. And I think the thing that was an issue for me there was when we weren't able to support the child. We weren't able to support the child, and the child was becoming a danger to other children. And that was kind of the point at which our risk assessment really was, we unfortunately can't do this and we're going to have to try and signpost elsewhere. Do try to always signpost elsewhere, because there are services that, you know, that do have the capacity to cater for children with much higher levels of complex needs. In terms of assessing, I haven't really got a framework. I'm very happy to come out and have a chat with you and try and look at some of this stuff together. It's really difficult where you make that judgment call, and ultimately only you can really make the judgment call for your setting. So yeah.
Thanks, Nicola. And yeah, Lauren, that's something we know that we need to kind of link in with short breaks on, of, you know, how we come up with those frameworks. And is it a questionnaire for parents of, you know, a little bit about me, and they kind of give you the information. But again, yeah, it's kind of in the works with short breaks to figure out how we can better support you as providers to support the children and young people as well. Great. Okay, I'm going to hand it over to Rebecca now, who will talk about the health and safety checklist.
Hello everyone, I'm Rebecca. I work with Geraldine and Nikki on the HAF across the Borough. And you probably remember just before the summer provision, we sent out a compliance questionnaire which covered all of the main areas of compliance, and we asked you to complete and return it along with a training log before the start of the provision. And this is going to be similar. It will be a Microsoft form to complete and return, but the focus is really on health and safety. So this questionnaire will be sent to you all this week, and we would really like it if you could return it completed to us by the 15th. So that's just over 2 weeks' time. So that gives us enough time to have everything back and ready before the Christmas provision starts. So the questions on this form will cover, it's focusing much more, going into more detail about health and safety. It will ask you, obviously, whether you've got a health and safety policy, whether it's in date. It will ask you about your risk register, whether you have a system for reporting accidents, what your staff ratios are, what sort of staff training you have in place, whether you have a first aider on site, and also whether you do or would consider risk-benefit assessments. We'll also be asking for the risk register and the training log to be submitted as separate forms along with the questionnaire. And then at the bottom of the questionnaire, I've included quite a lot of links, which I think are to really helpful guidance and advice from the Health and Safety Executive, which is the main website, obviously, for all health and safety practice and policies. And there's also some links to another forum, which you may or may not have come across, the Play Safety Forum, which is really worth looking at, and what it's trying to do in some ways is reassure providers of children's play activities, not to be put off too much by the sort of the health and safety requirements, and just to be reassured that risk is obviously always there in children's play settings, and play is very, very important for children. And the main thing is, as Nicola said, to try and assess what the risks are and make sure you put enough sort of mitigating measures in place. So that's a checklist. It'll be going out this week, and if we could have it back by the 15th of December, please.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Yeah, I think probably since we last met, there has been some updated safeguarding guidance issued by the Department for Education. They have updated two main guidance documents, which are here. I've put the links: after school clubs, community activities and tuition. This is advice and guidance for providers such as yourselves. And then the other main document is really aimed at parents, and it's called Using After School Clubs, Tuition and Community Activities. And this is the link to the full policy document on the government website. However, these are quite lengthy documents, so the Department for Education has helpfully produced a sort of a smaller, more accessible summary, which they call a leaflet. I would say it's not quite a leaflet, it's quite long, but it is much shorter and more accessible than the full document. And this is called Keeping Children Safe During Clubs, Tuition and Activities. And if you go onto the same webpage as these links will take you to here, you'll find it as a downloadable PDF. And that's really, really worth printing off and just having to hand. As I say, it is quite accessible, easy to use. They have, the Department for Education has also created two posters really to back up this sort of new updated guidance. These are definitely worth printing off and displaying in your settings. One of them, the yellow one, is really aimed at parents. It's sort of encouraging parents to be aware of what sort of safeguarding measures should be in place in settings. And then the blue one is aimed at providers. It's kind of like a checklist stroke poster. we have actually already sent some out to providers who asked for them, and we will be sending them out to all providers over the next few weeks. And we would recommend that you put them up.
Okay, thanks. Any questions for Rebecca?
So training, we know that training is really, really important in increasing the confidence and competency of people working with children. So we've just highlighted here some key training events. All of these events are provided by the local Safeguarding Children Partnership, and they are all free to any voluntary organisation, voluntary sector organisation based in Hammersmith and Fulham, Kensington and Chelsea, or Westminster. Some of these, as you'll see, are in-person events at the town hall, and some are online. And the link to the training website is at the bottom. So I would really recommend keeping an eye on that website, because it's updated regularly. But these key events, the first one is Introduction to Safeguarding Children Level 1. I think probably a lot of you will have done this. It is the sort of the general introduction to safeguarding, which really anyone who works with children should do, certainly anyone who's new to working with children. And it's an introduction to the sort of key themes and the legislative framework for safeguarding. The next one, multi-agency child protection and safeguarding. This is sort of, I don't know, some trainers would call this level 2, LSCP calls level 3. It's really aimed at people who are a little bit more senior in the organisation, and definitely for the designated safeguarding leads. So this will look a little bit more in depth at the legislation around the child protection process, thresholds of intervention, and also it will explain how the referral process works. So really another really, really important training, particularly for the designated safeguarding leads. Safer recruitment, I think, yeah, hopefully some of you have done this already. You know, this is just really about being aware that very unfortunately there are some people who want to abuse children will always target organisations which will give them access to children. And so this is really about strengthening your recruitment procedures to protect the organisation, what you can do to really, you know, stop these sorts of people getting into your organisation. Meet the ladder, again, this would be something which would be really important for a designated safeguarding lead or someone who's a little bit more senior in the organisation, also governors and trustees. And it is run by the local authority designated officer. And really it explains their role, and it talks about the referral process, how referrals are made and how the process works, how cases are progressed within the safeguarding organisation. So these are the 4 main areas, probably the most important events on, but there are lots and lots of other training courses with different focuses, and they're all up on the LSCP website. So yeah, do keep an eye on it.
All right, thanks, Rebecca. I saw Lucy, oh yeah, Geraldine has kind of responded to that. So as we did some training specifically for HAF providers before summer, we're hoping to do that again in the new year, because we know that these events book up really quickly, and there's a lot of demand for them. So yeah, keep an eye out for that, because we are hoping to do some more specific training again in the new year. Okay.
Sorry, Nikki, to say there's a couple of things that have come in the chat now. So Rebecca, if it's okay to post a link in, that'd be great, to the LSCP training page.
In the chat.
Into the chat, that'd be great. And then Anam, I think you've just said here something about is that you'd like us to send out food allergy posters? Because yeah, we'd be very happy to do that if that'd be helpful.
I'll make a note of that.
Yeah, we'll just keep, yeah, we'll make a note of that. Thanks. Sorry, yeah, it is me now. I'm not, I know, yeah, I'm not going to spend too long on this section. I know we're kind of running short on time. We also did kind of talk about this briefly in the summer check-in, but just to let you know, I know that it's always feels like a bit of an overload in terms of, you know, the requirements on HAF providers, and I hope you can bear with us. We are obviously working within the constraints of DfE requirements, but also, you know, the legal requirements that exist, such as GDPR. So we are going to have to do a bit of work with all providers in the new year around data sharing and data protection. Hopefully, most of you will be completely up to speed with this anyway. I think, as far as I understand it, most of the requirements can be met through having a data protection policy in place. And we can help you with a model policy if you don't have one. So yeah, that would just be something that just to let you know that we will be kind of having to switch our focus to as well in the new year. So yeah, thank you again for bearing with us with the multiple questions and requests. We really do appreciate it.
Okay. All right, so I wanted to touch a little bit on school food standards and healthy eating, because this summer I think we were able to visit the majority of the organization. So between the council, and we had the wider commissioning team involved, and the foundations as well. So it was really great to kind of just get to the provision and see, you know, what it looks like on the ground. What sort of food is being served? Are the kids enjoying it? Those sorts of things. So I think it would just be helpful from you as the providers to kind of learn about, you know, how are you ensuring that you offer healthy food? Is it, you know, you're kind of taking feedback from the young people as to what they like to eat? Are you using any sort of resources in particular? You know, of course, it should be around the school food standards. But if there's something else that you follow, or you're kind of just using your own judgment on what you think would be a balanced meal for the young people. So yeah, I'll just open it up if anyone wants to write in the chat or kind of shout out how you're making that work for your projects. Does anyone have anything? I think one of the difficult things is often when you don't have access to cook on site and you are having to get food brought in, and you're catering, whether it's through a local restaurant or you're doing, you know, meal deals and that sort of thing. It's really helpful to kind of keep in mind what sort of food you're bringing in. And it's great, you know, to have pizza and fun foods and all that stuff, because oftentimes young people might not get the chance to have that at home. But those things should kind of be more as like a treat, and we should kind of, yeah, really be just trying to promote healthy eating to young people and what that looks like, and that, you know, it doesn't need to be boring food. It can be quite fun. So there's a picture here. This is from someone in the summer sent this in of, you know, they made this like tropical tree using some fruit. So that's an idea that's really helpful. Lauren has said that fresh fruit is really popular with children. And I think, you know, giving them those opportunities to actually try those foods. Some providers have said, you know, that the young people just seeing those foods every day, and then kind of starting to see their peers eat those foods, and they might be more likely to try it, which is always really helpful. So Peter has said that they had a sports nutritionist come and to speak to the children about eating fully nutritious meals. That's great. So, you know, when you're doing sport specific provision, kind of tailoring it so it's, you know, if you want to, whether it's be better at football or basketball, or you want to like be stronger, you know, kind of tying in healthy eating that way. I think sometimes that can kind of really appeal to secondary age young people. And I guess, yeah, has anyone done any other activities around healthy eating or getting young people involved in preparing the meals that you would like to share that you found was really helpful and you'd want, maybe other providers to try it out?
Hello? Hello? Oh,
Yes. Hi, Lucy. Yes.
hi. Yeah, I mean, we are our food is delicious.
I'm Lucy.
Oh, sorry. Oh, Liz, do you want to go and then Lucy can go?
Oh, sorry. Okay. So we have delicious home cooked meals, basically.
Yeah.
So they're healthy because we hide vegetables.
Yeah.
So we do sauces with hidden vegetables inside. But we also find just like putting out a load of carrots, cucumbers, all that sort of stuff. And we especially like the kids really like a buffet situation, so they can pick their own foods. And we find that they tend to be healthier. Always. We've always got veg out. We've always got salads out. We've always got fruit out. And the kids, and the one thing that I found was really was surprising though, is that we started doing smoothies. We were like getting kids to make their own smoothies with our little bullet machines and things.
Yeah.
But we were advised by Change for Life that smoothies may not be a good option because of the high sugar content. So it's a bit kind of, we would like more. Yeah, we're going to be obviously talking to Change for Life for more details about that sort of thing. But we were doing some kind of like spinachy smoothies, which actually surprisingly the kids quite liked, and things like that. So those sort of things, anything that they can do stuff themselves seems to be popular.
Yeah.
And hiding and doing the classic hiding things in a bolognese or hiding things in a hiding veg seems to be really popular. And we have a kind of a set menu that kind of works well for us, so we know exactly what we're having every day. Taco Tuesday, for instance, but tacos are really good because we get loads of avocado in there, and you get loads of salad stuff, cucumbers, all that sort of stuff and everything. And I think that those sort of things that are gimmicky are popular.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
it seems like them having the choice to kind of what they want to put on tacos or in their salad.
Yeah, it's all those
having
toppings. Toppings is the thing. Toppings, they're getting the right toppings, and it's really good for their autonomy, I think, and then getting them involved. And we did this whole recently, it wasn't part of the HAF thing, but we did a whole cooking. We used gas stoves, like camping gas stoves.
Okay.
And got children chopping up veg and cooking on a camping gas stoves. And we had like a cook-off, but we had a chef on board teaching them. But it was really amazing what they could do in a relatively short space of time to get a proper soup together, and sort of cooking, and they really enjoyed that. And that was quite good for all different levels of capability. And we've got also all the cutting. We've got like toddler knives and stuff like that for then toddler knives, but actually they cut pretty well. So there's loads of there's loads of kind of ways of getting them involved. Not every day because it's a bit messy, but it's I think it's surprising how much veg we go through.
Excellent. Okay. That's great to hear that, it seems like you've kind of figured out what works for the young people that come to your programs, and that, there is a lot on offer, which is great.
So it's making it seem like it. Yeah, it's that whole, but I think most people know about that, don't they? The whole having, making your chicken nuggets seem, just making them healthier.
Yeah.
It's possible to do. It's possible to do,
Absolutely.
And they've kind of got used to it as well. They get kind of used to the, maybe a tortilla chip instead of a crisp and things like that, those sort of things. It's like small changes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
yeah, great. Okay, that's really great to hear. Thank you. Lucy, did you want to come in?
Yeah, a lot of the stuff that we do is similar to what Liz has mentioned. We actually only do vegetarian food for a number of reasons, just because I think it saves the issue about concerns about whether we're halal or not. We're using halal food. We tend to make sure all our food is halal compliant anyway, but if we don't have meat, then it's not an issue. The only time it's an issue is if we have sweets as treats, which is very rare, but we have prizes occasionally. But even then, that has to be halal. So we have, and also then there's not the issue of storing meat that can be a real issue if you have your own on-site kitchen. So everything's vegetarian. There was kickback when we first started with that idea, but actually now it doesn't seem to be an issue at all. There's really good ways of doing. You have to be quite careful with meat substitutes because some of them can contain egg and stuff as well. And then if you've got a mixture of children who are vegetarian, vegan and stuff, you've got to balance that out. But actually what we found is a really good meat substitute is just minced mushroom. Like you wouldn't think it, but actually things like that really work. And that's a bit like hiding the food. But what we like to do, and we did in the summer, which was really great, was we got the kids counting the number of vegetables in the dishes to see if they could recognize them, and were actually really surprised when they found out how many different vegetables were in them. So that's quite fun. We do get them involved in helping cook lunch. Obviously, there's a lot of health and safety issues around that. And it has to be, we have to kind of maintain the hygiene standards and everything with the children that are helping cook. But they're very good at that, and especially some slightly older children really enjoy helping out in the kitchen. So that's really positive. So that means as well that they get involved from the beginning to the end. We also have a little allotment plot. We never really grow enough to be able to feed everyone, but it helps with that idea of where the food comes from. And recently what we've started doing is we get stuff sometimes given to us from the food banks, and if it's not usable anymore, because sometimes stuff comes in and it's not usable, they've now gotten into chopping it up for the compost heap, and so it's a kind of full cycle thing going on. That's really good. They also, I think, like one of the other people on here said, get really involved in planning. So they will actually, we have a group that will decide on what meals are going to be served during holidays, and they'll know what ones are really popular, and sometimes they remind us of the ones that are really popular. But generally we use the school standards, food standards information to kind of give us a guideline.
Excellent.
So that's yeah,
it seems like it's been quite successful for you, and it sounds like, you know, having those conversations about what they're actually eating and where it comes from gets them a bit more interested in the food as well.
And Lizzie's right about the buffet thing as well. We do that because we're open all year long. So when the children come in after school, then we'll have a range of vegetables and fruits on the side, and they'll just come up and ask for it as and when, which I think really encourages them to get more fruit and veg inside them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Excellent. Okay, thanks, Lucy. If anything else anyone wants to add? And just a few things. So I've just listed a few resources there at the bottom, so you can click on all these links. So there's the school food standards. There is around allergy guidance. So that also kind of comes back to health and safety in terms of, you know, how are you asking parents about the allergies, and then how are you kind of, you know, mitigating those risks through your risk assessments, you know, finding out, you know, whether it's an external caterer or what the potential allergens are and that sort of thing. And then there's also the Change for Life service. So for those of you who haven't used it before, it's commissioned by the public health team in the Byborough. So they can actually come into your provision and they can run activities for the children and young people. They can kind of do support for you as the organizers on, you know, how you could kind of make improvements to the food that you're serving, and just do general training about healthy eating with staff that are kind of working on the ground with the children and young people. And that's all kind of free to access as well. And we did run a few training sessions before summer. So if there's interest in that, we can try and put off another training session specifically for HAF providers as well. Okay. So just to talk about Christmas, so it's a bit of a weird one this year with the way the holiday is falling. So Friday the 22nd of December is the first day, and then it runs till Friday the 5th of Jan. So I think feedback that I've gotten from most of the organizations is that you'll be running that week of the 2nd to the 5th of Jan. And then there are some that are kind of doing off days in between. So if you haven't already, let me know what dates you're running. If you could let me know as soon as possible, ideally this week, just because we're trying to kind of map all the provision and make sure that there still are some activities running in those, odd days between Christmas and New Year. Also updating the projects to our city. I know I'm kind of like a broken record with this one, but it's really important that even if your project is fully booked, put it on our city, and we can change it to say fully booked, but all of the comms, everything we're doing is signposting parents and families and young people to go to our city to find out what's on offer. So it's really important that you do get that up there, because it seems kind of silly if we're promoting this website and then they go there and there's not actually anything on offer. And then other people from the council kind of like to look at it as well to see what we're doing, what we're funding, what the general offer is. I'm just going to skip over the sessional staff and come back to that in a sec. So the reporting spreadsheet is due on the 17th of January. So just kind of keeping that in mind. I sent a copy of it around in the email on Friday, but just keeping in mind what information you need to collect for that. The data quality, again, it's another one of those things that making sure you have the proper spelling. Is it their legal name that the school would have on file? That sort of thing. It makes our lives a lot easier when we're trying to match it in the census. So then coming back to sessional staff. So this is something we've kind of discussed like as an internal team, because we know a lot of you are either like the fundraising managers or the overall manager of an organization. So when we have these sorts of meetings or we send out emails, how are these messages being passed down to the sessional staff? So those staff that are actually working on the ground with the children and young people during the holidays. Do you have team meetings before the holiday period starts? Are they kind of forwarded the emails? It would just be helpful to know from your end what's been working, and then if there's anything we could do from our side to kind of help facilitate the passing down that information. Anyone has any feedback?
Hi, Nikki. It's Ronnie here from North Paddington Youth Club. We have a pre-holiday staff meeting to allocate workers' hours, look at the program, and just basically make sure that all the sessions are covered by the right amount of staff and the availability of staff, etc., etc. So we always have a pre-one, so to make sure that everything's covered for HAF holiday programs.
Okay, thanks, Ronnie. So yeah, it sounds like that's just having a chat to kind of it's trying to get everyone in the room. Kind of seems like the best way forward. And Sarah has said the same thing, that do a staff meeting before the program starts. I mean, I do have a email list. So if there's any of you that you want to include sessional staff on that list, or other staff, just let me know. It's absolutely fine. So then maybe it saves you the time of having to forward on all these emails as well, because I know that sometimes those things get missed. And then also it goes the other way. The sessional staff might have feedback that would be really helpful for us to hear. So then again, how those messages get passed back to us would be really helpful. So I don't know if anyone has any thoughts on how we kind of make that run a little bit more smoothly. Lucy said that they do debrief sessions at the end of each session. Okay, so yeah, debrief would be good as well. If any of you are doing debriefs and you want to just send me an email of something that sessional staff has mentioned, something that's working or it's not working. This is HAF is constantly a work in progress, so we're just trying to figure out how we can just make everything a bit better as we go. Okay, so then I guess the next thing is kind of just getting into Christmas planning. So I think I just wanted to hear from some of you, how it's been going. Are you struggling, if you're trying to do activities, are you struggling to book things? Or if anyone has found any like free activities in the Byborough that you think would be good to share with the other organizations, because we know in the summer everyone was kind of sharing ideas like that of you know, this group will offer free tickets here and that sort of thing. So yeah, has anyone come across any kind of free opportunities like that you think it would be good to let other organizations know about?
Hi. MCC, they offer free sessions,
Okay.
cricket sessions.
Yep.
Whether that's at Lord's, taking them to Lord's and doing a session there, or they offer to come down and do a session at your venue, or they also offer a tour around the Lord's Stadium. So you can get in touch with them. A person called Roselle.
Yep.
She will be able to help you out.
Perfect. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I
So-
have her information, so I can send that around again for Christmas. So if anyone wants to access that. So I think a lot of organizations are linked up with MCC already. So that's the cricket club. But yeah, if anyone wasn't aware of that, I'll send out the information anyway. And again, it's also something you can use all year round. It doesn't need to be just specifically for HAF. Anything else?
North Paddington Youth Club. We are operating between the 27th and 30th of December as part of our first week of HAF, because we're running for 2 weeks. But that week we're going to be off-site mainly. For that first, from the 27th to the 30th. So that means our building is basically free, empty. So if somebody wants to use our sports hall or use our facilities while we're off site, because we'll be back in the evening for our evening sessions at 5 o'clock. But up until 5 o'clock is pretty much empty. Well, in fact, it is empty for that week. So if anybody needs to use it, I've got staff members that are qualified in fencing. We've got all the fencing equipment there, that sort of stuff. So I could help out on that bit if that helps out. Qualified football coaches, etc., etc. So basketball. So there's a few things that we could possibly help with, but certainly the space. If anybody wants to use some space, it's indoors. The winter period obviously is around the corner, if not here now. So if we can help in that way, it's probably only be the only week we could offer, because the following week we're fully booked with external providers for the week beginning 2nd of January. But that in between Christmas and New Year, there's plenty of opportunity up till 5 o'clock if that helps anyone.
Perfect. Thank you, Ronnie. Yeah, so if anyone is looking for a space, if you want to do, if you need any space in the sports hall, I can share Ronnie's information as well. Anything else from anyone? We're just going to talk about 2024, and then we can kind of come back and just for general questions. And Liz, I will come back to your pupil premium and homeschooling questions as well. So I'm just going to pass it on to Geraldine quickly, and then we can come back for some general questions.
Hi there. So yeah, just to talk about next year, so the calendar year 2024, and plans for HAF. So we are anticipating that the DFE will confirm our allocations. So that's the Westminster allocation and the RBKC allocation for 2024 at some point in December. It was really late last year, so it was in that kind of week of the 20th of December. So I think as soon as they let us know, we won't be able to confirm your amounts at that point, but we can let you know that they've confirmed the allocations. So just to recap, so there was a long-term application process which was run in 2022. So I think the majority of you will have submitted an application then for provision, so your delivery in 2023 and 2024. So there isn't a requirement for you to kind of resubmit an application, because when you submitted back in October 22, it was reviewed as if it was covering the 2-year duration. Again, just to kind of recap, some of you might recall, but for those who perhaps don't recall, within the SLA, we did kind of basically set out that we would use the performance information that we gather through 2023 to guide the allocations for 2024. So we'd be looking at the take up, FSM, any other kind of performance issues. In all honesty, I know Nikki's in touch with you so regularly, and the allocations that you've had this year have been kind of congruent with places that have been taken up in previous provisions, so that shouldn't feel kind of any different to that process. But the HAF evaluation panel, which is basically our internal team and the foundations, and there are some other kind of key members who sit on the steering group as well, we'll come back together to review the 2024 allocations. And we're hoping that we'll be able to inform you as soon as we can. We know that's really important, especially to kind of gear up for that Easter provision, which always kind of comes really fast. So we're hoping to be able to kind of let you know about your allocation in early February 2024, and to basically kind of start the SLA renewal process. We may do some updates to the SLA for 2024 just to make sure that it again kind of captures the key priorities for next year. I can't imagine it's going to change dramatically, so it'll probably kind of look and feel, very similar to the SLA that you have at the moment. There might be some kind of slight legislative changes that we need to factor in, and often we do get kind of updates as well from the DfE that we just need to make sure that we're reflecting in provider SLAs. So those are the kind of key dates for delivery there as well. Nikki's just set those out. So if you could just, if they're not in your calendars, if you could just hold them, that would be great. And just to say that we'll be in touch kind of in the new year to just confirm the process for allocations for next year.
Perfect, thanks, Geraldine. Any questions about that, about the plan for next year? Okay. So I'm just going to stop sharing. So a few things I wanted to come back to. So Liz mentioned at the start about pupil premium. So with the Mayor for London scheme of the universal free school meals for primary age students in London, we know that the rates of the means tested or pupil premium free school meals will drop because, if families are getting the free meal, then they're not, why are they going to go through the effort essentially to do that application? If English is not their first language, if they, don't know that they're entitled. So the council is actually trying to do a lot of work around this, working with the schools and trying to kind of figure out like an enrollment process to get more people who are eligible for pupil premium. So that's something they're hoping to launch in the new year. So again, I think we're hoping to see that the FSM rates will increase again. But how the DfE gives all local authorities their allocations is actually based on how many free school meal children are registered in all the schools in the borough. So it's not about the resident population, it's about the school's information. So that's how ours is determined. But to be honest, the funding will never offer a place for every single FSM eligible young person. So in Westminster, I think in Westminster schools, there's about 8,000 people who are currently in receipt of FSM. Kensington and Chelsea is about 5,000. So the DfE's target is around 20% of that population is accessing HAF, and that's a national average. So that's kind of what we've been aiming for as well. So Liz, you mentioned you sometimes are at full capacity with FSM participants, but then sometimes there are organizations who are not. And so I think that's the thing, is that it's kind of also about signposting to other organizations when you're completely full. I understand there's some differences when it's siblings or family members or whatever that want to be together, but we know right now that we're still not all of our places that we're making available are being fully booked yet. So that's just something to keep in mind, that there is always that option to signpost them to another activity. And I think that's why it's so important to have everything on Our City and keeping it updated, because for you, all you can say to the parent is go back to the website and, you know, there will be something available. Yeah, so, but we are hoping that the scheme that the council is working on with the schools will make life easier for families, and they won't have to go through that whole process of registering. So, and then I guess in terms of our plans for how we're kind of recording that, so we've been linked up quite a bit with the business analyst team, and we're essentially going to try and build like a database of all the HAF participants with their FSM status next to it. So, you know how you send in your registration forms and then I send it back with the FSM status. What we're going to do, because we know it's usually the same young people that come back each time, so we are going to try and build a database where it makes that checking a lot easier. And then, you know, that the data analysts are a lot more involved in that process now as well. So it should, you know, getting registration forms checked and stuff like that should be a lot faster turnaround time, hopefully. Yeah, so that's, I think, is that okay, Liz? Is there any other questions you have about pupil premium? Or does anyone have any questions about pupil premium and how that works? I mean, in an ideal situation, we could offer free places to everyone regardless of that factor, but unfortunately that's just kind of the guidelines of the funding. So, you know, if, especially for 2024, if you can try and plan ahead and, you know, find match funding that where you can offer those places for non-FSM pupils, I mean, I'm more than happy to help you with the data in terms of like how many people you are reaching at the moment and that sort of thing, to make your applications stronger for other grant funding opportunities. Because I think we know the more universal a program is, I think it's just better for everyone. And then in terms of coming across young people who are homeschooled, so I think some of you this summer, you would just kind of mark that they were homeschooled. It would be helpful that if you know they are homeschooled, to kind of ask for their consent if I'm able to share that with the education team. So that in Children's Services, the education team kind of likes to have a list of who is homeschooled, because they, you know, they can't really, if there's any, you know, issues, they don't really know if the child's in school or if they're, you know, officially being homeschooled. But obviously for the GDPR guidelines, I'm not sharing any of this information beyond the HAF team. So I would actually need the consent from that family or that young person that we can just share this with the education team and say, you know, this is a homeschooled young person who's attending. Are they already on your list?
Nikki, can I just ask something quickly?
Yeah.
Would a parent have to apply for free school meals?
They do, yeah. So for means tested free school meals.
Just there was a follow-on question there.
Oh yeah,
because,
sorry.
I believe in London they're going to start providing free school meals anyway. So
they do. So
parents would probably stop applying for the free school meals, I suspect.
That's the problem.
It could be a bit of an issue.
Exactly, because why go through that process of like doing a pupil premium application when you're just getting it for free through the mayor's scheme anyway? So I think that's what we're trying to do, even in terms of comms, is that free school, the scheme you apply for, it's not just free school meals. So pupil premium means your school gets extra funding for their school to support that young person. You're entitled to supermarket vouchers during all the school holidays. That's through the household support fund. And then you're also eligible for a HAF place, because universal free school meals, that's just a London thing. That's not in the rest of the country. So the DFE has set those guidelines that HAF is only for those registered means tested free school meal families. So I know it's really tricky.
Yeah, just as I think schools are very aware of this, so they're really kind of pushing families, regardless of the London Mayor's offer, they're still pushing families to sign up, because obviously schools get additional funding, so it's really, really important for them. So it is being kind of discussed a lot, I'd say, at the moment, both within the local authority, but also within schools as well.
Yeah, so if you think, I think anyone you come across, you can always just say, ask, approach your school to find out if you are eligible. There is a link that I will send around as well, where people can just check their eligibility on the DFE website. But the best place to signpost them is to their school, because they're the ones that will help them get registered. So I think that's kind of the easiest thing to say. But yeah, as a local authority, we are working with schools to try and make that process a little bit easier for everyone. So hopefully I can share some updates with all of you on that in the new year as well. I think
Nikki,
that was
about homeschooling, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Ronnie.
So I've got a couple of young people that I'm aware or disclosed to me that they're on homeschooling. One's about 9 or 10,
Yeah.
and one's about 15, 16. Are they able to give us permission to pass on, or do we need to get their parents to give us permission for you to disclose that to the children's services?
It would be their parents.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it has to be their parents. Okay, cool.
Yeah, it would have to be their parents. And then it's just going to the education team, just so, because they try and keep a register of anyone in the borough who's homeschooled. So it would have to be and it's just the consent that I can share it. It's not like they need to do anything additional, because I will just send it on. But I can't send it on because that's not what we collected the data for, essentially.
Would you want that in writing, or just a verbal conversation you had with a parent?
I don't know. Geraldine, what do you think? Writing, probably?
In all honesty, I don't think I can advise on that, but we can definitely find out and let everybody know. I think it's probably worth us just checking the exact details.
Yeah, we can ask the education team, like, what is the best way to go about it, just to making sure that we're GDPR compliant. Cool. Okay. That's everything from me. I don't know if anyone has any questions or anything else that you wanted to raise. Okay. So I will say, final thing, try and put your project on Our City if you can. As the comms have gone live this week, so we're doing like paid comms. The postcards and stuff have gone out to the schools, so people will start to go onto the website. And if you've already registered and you're just waiting for the foundations to approve it, that will be sorted as soon as possible as well. But if you haven't signed up, please sign up and please put it on Our City. Yeah, but thank you everyone for coming. I know it's a big time commitment, 90 minutes of listening to us. But yeah, I appreciate it, and hopefully we'll get out to see some of you during the Christmas holidays as well.
Yeah, I just wanted to come and say a massive thank you. Thanks for all the contributions today, everybody. Really